Time for CBX Business News. The Business News Headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
CBX amends U.S. filing, a CDB and OPEC fund deal, and OpenAI takes aim at Google. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Tuesday, October 21, 2025. I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast, locally, CBX removes controversial US $201,000 payment to JLP from US SEC filing, citing a classification error. On the regional front, CDB and OPEC fund forge landmark partnership to unlock growth financing across the Caribbean. And over on the global stage, OpenAI launches the Atlas browser in direct challenge to Google's dominance. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the CBX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why CBX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Courage and will, perseverance and skill are the 4 leaves of Lux Clover. That tells you that you must work it. It doesn't come by chance. You must allow people to take responsibility for their actions. And as a result of that, you get the best result. Know the people that you work with more than the work itself. As the work itself, you will get persons to assist you there. But the important thing is your relationship in an organization.
How can you ignite a sort of passion in younger persons to just say, yes, there's hope for Jamaica there. I see something that I can gravitate towards. I want to just underscore when persons talk about the development of the market, all these are robust, all systems are robust. No managing director does it alone. No one person has all the ideas. No one person can support a market. Having an open door is important. The ability to dialogue is important. Those are most important in leadership. Allowing people to lead as well. As a leader, you must allow people to lead. I would say that we are a small giant.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin this evening with a trailblazer whose leadership has transformed Jamaica's capital markets into a model for the region and the world. Jamaica has paid tribute to one of its most influential financial leaders. Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, the driving force behind the Jamaica Stock Exchange's rise to global prominence, has been officially conferred with the Order of Jamaica for exceptional service in the field of capital market development. For more than 2 decades, Street Forrest, who recently retired from her role as managing director of the JSE, redefined how Jamaicans invest and build wealth, steering the stock exchange through historic transformation. Her leadership propelled the exchange to international acclaim, earning recognition as one of the world's top-performing markets, admired for its innovation, transparency, and investor confidence.
Mrs. Marlene Jennifer Street Forrest, Commander of the Order of Distinction and Justice of the Peace, for exceptional service in the field of capital market development.
Mrs. Marlene Street Forrest is Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Director of both its subsidiaries. During her tenure, she's steered the institutions through transformative growth and redefined how Jamaicans perceive wealth creation and investment. Mrs. Street Forrest has guided the JSE to its current heights of success and international acclaim. Under her stewardship, the US-denominated market and the junior market of the JSE were launched. In 2016, Dr. Street Forrest was conferred with the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander.
That was Dr. Marlene Street Forrest receiving Jamaica's 4th highest national honor on Monday at the ceremony of investiture and presentation of National Honors and Awards 2025. And Dr. Street Forrest wasn't the only financial trailblazer honored at this year's ceremony. Jamaica has also celebrated the contribution of Mr. Keith Duncan, conferring on him the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander for exceptional service in the fields of finance, business, and social development. Duncan is the Chief Executive Officer of JMMB Group and has spent years at the forefront of Jamaica's economic reform journey. He has also helped us steer the country through some of its most critical fiscal adjustments, ensuring accountability and building public confidence in Jamaica's economic recovery.
Keith Duncan is the Chief Executive Officer of the JMMB Group, one of the Caribbean's largest financial groups. Over the years, he has shown unwavering commitment to Jamaica's overall development. Mr. Duncan served as chairman of the Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, which monitored the implementation of Jamaica's economic reform measures, and now chairs its successor, the Fiscal Commission Advisory Committee. Mr. Duncan recently was appointed a government senator.
That was Mr. Keith Duncan receiving the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander for exceptional service in the fields of finance, business, and social development. In other news, a major corporate disclosure shakeup is unfolding involving one of Jamaica's biggest cement producers. CBX, the parent company of Caribbean Cement Company, has amended a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, removing a line that previously listed a payment of just over US $201,000 to the ruling Jamaica Labour Party, described as fees. In what's shaping up to be one of the most talked about corporate disclosures of the year, CBX has admitted that the US $201,538 payment was erroneously classified in its mandatory US filings. The figures were published in CBEX's specialized disclosure filed with the SEC on September 29 under Section 13Q of the Securities Exchange Act. The entry immediately triggered questions among governance and compliance experts, given that political organizations are not government entities and should not typically appear in mandatory resource extraction filings. Sources close to the company say the amount has since been removed from the SEC filing through a corrective submission. According to the filing, the bulk of CBEX's Jamaican payments went to the state agencies including the Tax Administration Jamaica and the Jamaica Customs Agency. These included more than US $14.9 million in taxes and over US $8.6 million in fees, as well as royalties paid to the Commissioner of Mines. Moving to financial news. Innovative Energy Group Limited has posted a net profit of $82.2 million for the 7-month period ended May 31, 2025, marking its first profitable year in more than a decade. The results reflect the impact of its $2.8 billion acquisition of IEC SPEI Limited in November 2024, which immediately injected new renewable energy projects into the business. The subsidiary alone contributed over $325 million in revenue and nearly $100 million in profit during the review period. Total assets climbed to $3.26 billion, anchored by more than $2.6 billion in goodwill from the deal. But the company also carries $1.87 billion in related party loans, with auditors highlighting its going concern reliance on future funding and project execution. Despite the debt load, Innovative Energy closed the period with $1.02 billion in equity and says it's betting on Jamaica's clean energy transition to power long-term growth. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities market. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 114 stocks, of which 48 advanced, 45 declined, and 21 traded firm. Leading the winners are Cargo Handlers, JFP Limited, Pulse Investments, and Jamaica Public Service Company 7%, while leading the losers are Margaritaville Turks, ISP Finance Services, Margaritaville Turks USD, and 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference. The JSE index declined by 50.92 points or 0.02% to close at 322,428.58 points. The junior market index advanced by 9.31 points or 0.28% to close at 3,370.51 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Carrie Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we will be defining the term Net Present Value. Net Present Value, NPV, evaluates the profitability of a project or investment by comparing the present value of expected future cash inflows to the initial cost. Typically, a project is considered worthwhile if it has a positive NPV, while a negative NPV suggests it may not be a sound investment. NPV incorporates the time value of money and can be used to evaluate and compare the return rates of various projects. It also helps determine whether a project's projected return meets or exceeds the minimum required rate of return, known as the hurdle rate for investment approval.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by Carrie Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. A powerful new financing alliance is taking shape to accelerate sustainable development across the Caribbean. The Caribbean Development Bank has signed a memorandum of understanding with the OPEC Fund for International Development, establishing a strategic platform to mobilize fresh investment and scale climate-resilient growth in the region. The agreement was signed last week on the sidelines of the International Monetary Fund World Bank annual meetings in Washington, D.C. It sets the stage for parallel financing and co-financing of projects in key sectors, including renewable energy, resilient infrastructure, food security, trade finance, and youth empowerment. The partnership also prioritizes technical assistance, knowledge exchange, and capacity building to give borrowing member countries expanded access to innovative solutions and resources. Both institutions have signaled that the agreement is not just about financing, but about reshaping the Caribbean's development landscape. The collaboration will open doors to new investment flows, accelerate climate adaptation, and strengthen human capital through technical and vocational training. The Central Bank of the Bahamas is pressing ahead with sweeping reforms aimed at modernizing the country's financial regulatory framework. The proposed legislative package touches nearly every corner of the banking and payments ecosystem, from credit unions to mobile wallet providers, with a sharp focus on financial inclusion, consumer protection, and stronger governance. Governor of the Central Bank, John Roll, outlined a comprehensive plan to amalgamate and modernize regulations governing both domestic and international financial institutions during an industry briefing earlier today.
There are some common themes in the package of legislation and proposed reforms. I'll just touch on selectively on some of them. One of them is a focus on strengthening our domestic financial stability framework, particularly insofar as we talk about the safety net for depositors. When we think as well about how we structure the funding, backstop and assurances for deposit insurance, that's also a focus, as well as an emphasis on preemptive planning as regards the resolution framework for banks and credit unions particularly. Another theme is consolidating and strengthening the oversight space for payments and money services in general. And this also will provide an enhanced framework for to push on financial inclusion ideals, as well as to give the central bank the inroads to address, consumer financial protection ideals.
That was Governor of the Central Bank of the Bahamas, John Roll. The Caribbean's integration project is entering a new phase, and Belize is positioning itself as the test case. This month, Belize joined Barbados, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in launching full free movement of CARICOM nationals under the Caribbean Community Single Market and Economy. But unlike previous rollouts across the region, Belize is linking broader policy to financial systems, creating an integrated framework that allows workers to not only enter but participate in the economy immediately. Speaking in Parliament recently, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Francis Fonseca says at the heart of the strategy is a new indefinite stay stamp issued at ports of entry, which gives eligible nationals the legal right to live and work in Belize without a work permit or skills certificate.
Belize has prepared carefully for this transition, adopting an administrative approach from commencement to ensure a smooth and secure rollout. Implementation systems in place include a new indefinite stay stamp, which is in use at all ports of entry, affirming the rights of nationals from these participating member states to live and work in Belize.
He says the Central Bank of Belize has directed domestic banks to open financial services to CARICOM nationals with a stay stamp.
In support of financial inclusion, the Central Bank of Belize has issued guidance to domestic banks to ensure that CARICOM nationals, their spouses and dependents can access financial services once they have received their indefinite stay stamp.
That was Belize's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Francis Fonseca. In other news, exporters across Guyana are set to gain new footholds in Europe's single market as the Caribbean Export Development Agency partners with the European Union to help businesses unlock financing and trade opportunities under the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement. The two-day workshop, which begins on October 27 in Guyana, is part of the EU's Global Gateway Initiative. It's designed to equip local exporters and export-ready firms with the tools to navigate EPA provisions, strengthen competitiveness, and access financing to scale up operations. Officials say the sessions will focus on three critical areas: market access, regulatory compliance, and trade financing instruments. Through the EPA, Caribbean businesses benefit from duty-free, quota-free access to the EU for most goods, along with provisions for services and investment flows. By linking trade with financing, the workshop aims to help firms move beyond market entry to sustainable expansion. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 5 advanced, 6 declined, and 11 traded firm. Today's winners are Guardian Holdings, Calypso Macro Index Fund, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, and Unilever Caribbean, while leading the losers are One Caribbean Media, A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, National Flour Mills, and Angostura Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index advanced by 1.36 points to close at 1,414.16. The Composite Index advanced by 0.71 points to close at 974.23. The cross-listed index remained at 70.44. The SME index remained at 99.17. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Are so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
Welcome back. In international news, OpenAI is making its boldest play yet to challenge the dominance of Google with the launch of its new AI-powered Atlas browser. The browser, unveiled on Tuesday, is being positioned as a reimagined gateway to the web, one that blends conversational AI directly into the browsing experience. It launches first on Apple laptops before expanding to Windows, iOS, and Android devices. CEO Sam Altman called Atlas a once-in-a-decade opportunity to rethink what a browser can be, signaling the company's intent to compete head-on in an industry long dominated by Chrome's 3 billion users. This move comes just weeks after a U.S. federal judge rejected an antitrust remedy that could have forced Google to sell Chrome, a decision that effectively keeps Google's market lead intact. OpenAI had previously indicated it would have considered buying Chrome if the court had ordered the sale. And while OpenAI is setting up a showdown in Silicon Valley, another battle is playing out in the global commodities market. Gold markets were rocked on Tuesday as spot prices plunged 5.5% to US $4,115.26 an ounce, in what analysts say is the steepest one-day decline in 5 years. The sudden drop follows Monday's record high of US $4,381.21, part of a rally that's driven gold up roughly 60% this year on the back of geopolitical uncertainty, central bank buying, and expectations of US interest rate cuts. U.S. gold futures for December delivery closed 5.7% lower, underscoring the scale of the pullback. Traders say much of the move reflects short-term profit-taking after a volatile week at the top of the market. And from metals to currencies now, where inflation pressures gave the Canadian dollar some rare tailwinds. The Canadian dollar gained ground on Tuesday after hotter-than-expected inflation reading narrowed the gap between Canadian and U.S. bond yields. The Canadian dollar strengthened by 0.1% to $1.40 per U.S. dollar, or about 71 U.S. cents for 1 Canadian dollar. During the trading session, it moved between $1.40 and $1.41. A week ago, the loonie was weaker, hitting a 6-month low of $1.41 for US dollar. According to Statistics Canada, annual inflation accelerated to 2.4% in September, the highest level since February, driven by smaller declines in gasoline prices and higher food costs. The reading topped economist expectations of 2.3%. And finally tonight, we turn to South America, where economic momentum is fading just as Argentina heads into a pivotal vote. Argentina's economy appears to be losing momentum for a second straight month. The median forecast points to 2.5% year-on-year growth in August, down from 2.9% in July and a strong 6.1% in June. The slowdown reflects tighter credit conditions, high interest rates, and ongoing pressure on foreign reserves. The closely watched monthly economic activity estimator, EMAE, published by INDEC, will provide the official picture on Wednesday afternoon. Analyst forecasts range widely from 1.2% to 5.5%, highlighting just how uncertain the outlook has become. All this comes less than a week before legislative elections on October 26, which President Javier Milei hopes will give his party more control in Congress to push through market-friendly reforms. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break. And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, CBX removes controversial US $201,000 payment to JLP from US SEC filing. Regionally, CDB and OPEC Fund forge landmark deal to unlock growth financing across the Caribbean. And internationally, OpenAI launches Atlas browser in direct challenge to Google. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.